Hello again, everybody. Welcome back to HemingwayLand.com, your source for quality, affordable land in the state of Hawaii. So we have got a new property today. We're now, as we're getting things photographed, we're getting things listed, we're rolling out more and more of these in different subdivisions where we have not previously purchased at, not previously listed land. And so we're very excited today to have another one in another new part of Hawaii County. This one, of course, as you can see from the headline, power and paved road access, relaxed zoning laws. We like to write that about a lot of these, but it is the common denominator with a lot of these subdivisions is that they boast those three very important things. So with all that said, let's get to introducing the property. This is reference number HI11851, located in Hawaii County, aka the Big Island. It's also in the Puna district on the eastern part of the island, specifically in the Orchid Isle Estates subdivision. This is a 0.28 acre property, so a scooch more than a quarter acre of land. And as you saw up top here, this is priced at $8,000. Now, if we bring this up on a map, and of course we can do that by coming down here, clicking the GPS coordinates that are on all of our listing pages, it will bring this property up on the Google Maps. So, property sits right here, but before we get into specifics, let's pull back, talk about where this is on the island itself. So everybody recognizes Hawaii right here, and probably everybody recognizes the Big Island itself, which is aka Hawaii County. This specific property sits over here in the eastern part of the island in what is known as the Puna district. The property specifically is in this carved out area called Orchid Isle Estates. And if we zoom back a little bit more, you'll see that this is in very close proximity to the towns of Volcano and to the town of Mountain View, and to the town of Curtistown and Keough over here, and then ultimately just a little further north over here, the population center of the island, you've got Hilo. Hilo, of course, is, these towns that I just mentioned, these small towns, villages that are close to the property. This is where you're going to find some small stores, grocery stores, post offices, some bars, some restaurants, things like that. But of course, over here in Hilo is where you've got, let's say the big box stores. You've got the international airports. You've got the university. It's just a lot more development, a lot more population, and just a lot more opportunity for shopping, dining, nightlife, so on and so forth. Of course, that is not too far of a drive away. Along here, the Highway 11, which the property sits very close to. Highway 11 is, of course, the Belt Road, which goes around the entirety of the island. It circles it. But the property also sits very close as well to some of the black sand beaches that sit here along the eastern, southeastern coast of the island, from the Poihoiki Black Sand Beach over here to the Kehana Black Sand Beach to Kalapana down here. And, of course, the Kalapana night markets are famous or well known out here. So a lot of activities in this region. Hawaii Volcanoes National Park is nearby, so on and so forth. So it's an enviable area where obviously there's a heavy concentration of people living out here, a lot of people who like living in this region, etc. Now, as noted, guys, this is Orchid Isle Estates. This is where the property sits, and more specifically, it sits here off of Awila Road. I believe that's how that's pronounced. The property has paved road access, and it has power at the lot line. You can see there's a home right across the street and a home not too far away from subject property right here, as well as here. Power up and down Awila, and actually, hang on, guys, if we take the little guy here on the map, put him down here on Lehuanane Street, I'm guessing is the pronunciation. You can see, here we go. So we got paved roads, we got the power lines, etc. And then you can kind of make out that the power lines are extending down this road. The looks like the Google car when it was driving around out there, the roads were not as well maintained as they are now. We have some current photos from the property. These roads look a lot better. Whatever the case, generally pretty well maintained roads, obviously navigable by any vehicle type, so on and so forth. Additionally, I just want to point out to you guys, if we zoom in here on the lot and we go to map view, you're going to see the plat overlay, which kind of shows you that all the lots out here are roughly this size, roughly this 0.28 acre lot. There's a lot of these throughout the subdivision. And if we come here to the photo gallery, we have, as always, the Google Earth representation, not only the exact size, shape, location of the property, but also we have the plat maps. For those of you who like to look at plat maps, I don't know if this will show you anything, but this is basically going to back up what I'm showing you here on Google Maps, etc. So let's go through the photo gallery. We recently got a new photographer, and I'm kind of still educating him on how I want properties photographed. You can see here, as I was just pointing out earlier, that the turnoff here from Lehuanane onto the subject property is a lot. Oh, I'm sorry. No, this one looks better than what we'd seen on Google Maps. It looks a little torn up, some potholes once or twice, but overall, easy road to get down. Additionally, power going all the way down to the property. This is one of the neighbor's properties, the gate. We don't actually have photos of the house. I wish we did. But as you can see, power lines running up and down this property, up and down this road, and also along the property line. Of course, this lot, like a lot of lots that we feature in Hawaii, is full of dense vegetation, a lot of forestry here on the property. So anybody who's going to build on this land, of course, has to first bulldoze all of this down. Of course, people who own bulldozers for knocking down vegetation in Hawaii is a small cottage industry out there. Very easy to find somebody who can come and, quote, doze your land for you once you have the proper permit for that. So anyway, you get a sense of the street here. You get a sense that this is sort of a nice, kind of bucolic, charming, suburban neighborhood out here in Hawaii. And, yeah, more photos. So, for the record, our photographer went out there, flew the drone over seemingly the entire island, and sent me about 400 photos from the island. And then I had to kind of sit for about 20 minutes and figure out where the property was actually at that he was showing me. Whatever the case, we helpfully, guys, did one of these. Look at that. Subject property here. We outlined so you can get a better sense of where this thing is, because I promise if you were looking at the original photos, you'd have no idea. Anyway, so we did one of those, and then, of course, right here, we've got one of these, etc. So you can get some kind of sense of what your neighbors' homes look like as well. These look like pretty nice homes, pretty well-maintained homes. Back here, by the way, is a water catchment system. I'm going to talk about that a little later in the video, but also from this angle, you can also see the power lines actually running up and down the street, actually on the property line itself. So that's helpful. And as we go through this, of course, we have some more cutouts here to better acquaint you with the geography. Anyway, and of course, more photos from just around the region. As you can see, lush vegetation. This supposedly is an area that historically there was a good amount of agriculture that went on in this area. So this is an area that is still good for a lot of growing, whatever you may be growing. I'll leave it at that. Yeah. Anyway, I will let you guys peruse through the photo gallery on your own. A couple things I want to talk about. So, number one, this subdivision is called Orchid Isle Estates, okay, aka Glenwood Gardens. There is another subdivision in Hawaii County called Orchid. See, I screwed it up. Okay, it's called Orchid Isle Estates. There's another subdivision in Hawaii County called Orchid Island Estates. Please do not confuse the two. I confused the two, did a whole bunch of research on Orchid Island, and then learned that I was looking at the wrong place. So, Orchid Isle different than Orchid Island. Additionally, there's also a subdivision called Hawaiian Orchid Isle Estates. Also different. So if you are looking at this property, if this is something you're interested in purchasing and you want to do some research, if there's something here that we have not addressed that you want to dig into, and you start Googling, just so you know, you're Googling Orchid Isle Estates, aka Glenwood Gardens. That's the name of the subdivision. Number one. Number two, what you will find when you start Googling that is that, well, let me back up a little bit. When we buy in these subdivisions out here, in these cutout regions where some of which even have names located here on Google Maps, Eden Rock, Fern Forest, so on and so forth, generally speaking, each one of these places tends to have a property owners association, POA. And for the most part, because things are pretty laid back in Hawaii, those POAs really only care about road maintenance. If they collect any dues at all, it's usually for road maintenance fees. They don't have a lot of rules about what gets built in their subdivision. They defer to county zoning. And so a lot of these places are good for tiny homes, shipping containers, yurts, things like that. And you'll see a lot of that if you kind of explore the map in these different subdivisions, in these different cutout regions. That being said, when you Google those property owners associations, if you Google any one of those subdivisions, and I challenge you to do this, Fern Forest, Eden Rock, Fern Acres, you're going to find some sort of web presence for whatever that POA is, whatever that property owners association is. They have some kind of website. Even if they haven't updated in 10 years, they've got something that talks about road maintenance fees or talks about whatever covenants and restrictions were recorded with their subdivision. Now, this subdivision, from what I was able to discern, has nothing online. They have no web presence at all, number one. And number two, they have, we could not find any covenants or restrictions recorded with the county. So normally what this suggests is that you can do whatever you like, you can build whatever you like. Obviously, per county zoning regulations, those are the things you want to be aware of. But the point is, there's nobody who's calling themselves the Orchid Isle Estates planning and architectural committee who wants to see what kind of paint swatches you're using on the exterior of your home. It's not that kind of thing. And that being said, when I see a subdivision like this, because we've bought and sold enough in Hawaii at this point that I recognize this, when you see a subdivision like this with well-maintained roads throughout the entire area and homes throughout the entire area, it suggests that there is, in fact, at the very least, some organization that's collecting some amount of money to pay for road maintenance throughout the year. Now, the person who we purchased this from claimed that he had no road maintenance fees. I can't believe that. So in selling this property to you guys, I at least want to disclose what I know, what I don't know, and what I can speculate intelligently on. So I don't know for sure for certain that there are road maintenance fees, but it seems to me that there are in every subdivision in Hawaii, and generally speaking, they tend to shake out to about $150 a year per lot. So if you're buying this property, we're not telling you you're going to have to spend $150 on road maintenance, but I would budget for it. Okay, just an FYI. I can't prove it. I found nothing online that proves it, but I'm speculating, based off things I've learned and read over months and months of buying in Hawaii. Okay. Anyway, with that said, the other thing I want to point out is when you see nice homes like this, and I assume most of these are nice homes, they look like they are. They look like they've got good cutouts of space here for land, things like that. That also suggests that there may be some, how do I say this? There may be some sort of regulations about what can and cannot be built in the area. Now, I don't think there is, because I haven't seen any evidence of that in other subdivisions, even ones that have nice homes like this. But the point is, if you go to a subdivision, you see a bunch of RVs parked around, you see a bunch of school buses or a bunch of old cars that are just piled up on one lot, it's safe to assume they have no zoning regulations, they have no covenants, they have no restrictions. When I see a place like this that actually looks pretty well developed, pretty well maintained, it suggests to me that there are. That being said, I found no evidence of them. I found no evidence of them in the county clerk's office, and I found no evidence of them online anywhere. So that's my way of saying buyer beware. But that being said, because it is Hawaii, zoning is pretty relaxed out there anyway. And by relaxed, I don't mean, you can do whatever the hell you want. But it means that there are things that you can't do in the lower 48, things that a lot of counties, specifically New Mexico, will not allow or will make prohibitively expensive to do, that you can usually do in Hawaii. Living out of a yurt is one of those things, building a tiny home, no restrictions on minimum square footage, things like that. That's usually, something you could do out here. So point is, if you do have questions, call the zoning office. We, of course, have their contact information down here. Where they at? Hawaii County Planning and Zoning. Call them, say, hey, I'm looking to buy some land in Orchid Isle Estates, aka Glenwood Gardens, not to be confused with 27 other subdivisions that have the almost exact same name. This is zoned, rural residential. What does that mean? What can I do out here? What can I not do out here? Here are my plans, X, Y, and Z. Can I do those things? So those are ultimately good questions for Hawaii County Planning and Zoning. Number one. Number two, another couple things I want to make you guys aware of. So we have property-specific notes about this region, about what's close by. One of the things to note is that this is in Lava Zone 3, 3 of 9. The higher the number, the better it is. But if you're in Lava Zones 1 or 2, there is historically more precedence for lava flow, let's say. Once you're in Zone 3, it's considered safe enough that you can actually get homeowners insurance for it. So if you're buying property out here, one of the benefits, of course, is that you will be able to get homeowners insurance because it is in Lava Zone 3. Additionally, one of the other things, we link this on every one of our Hawaii County listing pages, is this one. For those of you, if you haven't lived in Hawaii, if you don't know, if you're not familiar, what I was talking about earlier, the dozing of the land, the clearing of these forested lots, we link to a video. If you click on this, it's going to bring it up here on YouTube. It's, overlong, boring, but very informative. But basically, it's an hour-long video just showing what a similar lot in a nearby subdivision looked like at the start of the dozing process, and then what it looks like at the end of the dozing process. So somebody goes out there with a bulldozer and knocks everything down and flattens it all out and makes it livable, makes it buildable, etc. So if you want to get some better insight into that, we of course have that video linked right there. Additionally, what we also like to point out on these listing pages is that I was mentioning earlier, I showed you guys that photo, that high-angle shot of the one property that has the water catchment system. A lot of times we'll get questions about drilling wells out here, about how do I get water to my property, are there water lines in the subdivision, so on and so forth. What we like to point out is that this is an area where it rains a lot, and what is very common out there are these rainwater catchment tanks. And if you're not familiar with that, or even if you are, but you don't know exactly what the expenses in that, what logistically is involved with that, we like to link to some vendors in the area. It's always best to call vendors. So we've got Waterworks Hawaii here. If you click on them, it's going to bring up their website. This is what these things look like. This is what these rainwater catchment tanks look like, and what they come and sort of build on your property to make sure that you have clean drinking water, clean bathing water. Always good to reach out to vendors, whether that's a well driller in New Mexico or a rainwater catchment tank builder in Hawaii. Good to talk to these people in advance and just find out, practically speaking, what are the costs associated with this? What do I need to know? What kind of permits do I need, etc. So And that's good. And additionally, we also like to point out that Hilo, Hawaiian Electric Company, is the electric company that services this region. So if you want to reach out to them and say, hey, I'm looking to buy some land in Orchid Isle Estates, a.k.a. Glenwood Gardens. So again, they don't confuse it with the 82 other blah, blah, blah. It's good to talk to these people and just ask them, hey, you've got a power line on my property. Practically speaking, what's it going to cost for me to get power to a home that I built here, or to to a shipping container home that I build on this land? What can you tell me about that? And a lot of times when the power pole is already on the property, they'll usually hook you up for free or extend power to the structure itself, simply because now they've got a paying customer for years and years and years, or they'll do it at a very low fee anyway, just enough to pay the guys to get them out there to do it. Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so with all that said, guys, this is a little less information than I feel comfortable when I'm selling properties to you guys, when I'm listing. I usually like these listings to be a lot more comprehensive, have more detail about the covenants, the restrictions, the HOAs, etc. That being said, we literally could find nothing about this either online or within the county websites itself. I mean, it suggests to me that there's probably not much to be aware of. I think it's safe to assume there's road maintenance fees, even though I could find no record of it. But I don't think there's much of a property owners association out there. And by the way, if anybody knows anything different, please do leave a comment here on the YouTube or shoot us an email at support@hemingwayland.com. Whatever the case, this is still, a great suburban region in Hawaii, just outside of Hilo. If you work in Hilo, if you want to be working in Hilo, but you want to be out in the suburbs, easy commutes back and forth, or even if you just want to be close to the beaches, close to, this small artist community of Volcano, etc. There's a lot of nice things over here in this part of the island. So if you are interested in purchasing this land, just come up here, click the Buy Now button. It's going to bring up this secure checkout page. We're going to ask you for a couple pieces of information: legal name for deed, tax address. Once you give us all that, agree to the terms of service, click next. And on the very next page, we'll ask for credit and debit card information. For the record, guys, we ask for $500 as a non-refundable earnest money deposit for two reasons. One, we do not assume the average person has a credit card they can charge $8,000 on. So starting it off with $500 is a good way to get the ball rolling on that process. Maybe you can charge $8,000, but you have to do $1,000 per credit card, or $2,000 a day for 4 days, or some math like that. We can always accommodate that, but it's nice to start with the $500 just to kind of get that started. Number one. Number two, some people want to close through title and escrow. That's fine with us. If that is the case, you put down the $500. We're going to get you a sale purchase agreement. You sign it, we sign it. We'll submit it to the title company, and we'll let them do the rest. That being said, the way that we recommend on properties of this price range, and if you come down here, we write a little bit about it, notes about purchasing, attorney closing. We have our attorney out there in Hawaii. You give us the money for the property, and generally we're going to reach out to him and say, please draw up some new conveyance documents, new deed, plus some other supplementals. He's going to do that within a couple days. We'll have them for you in an email. Once you approve them, we're going to autograph them, notarize them, and mail them off to our attorney to be recorded with the Hawaii Bureau of Conveyance. So that's a process in which we pay for the closing costs. If you do want to do title and escrow, we disclose to you that you are going to be responsible for paying those closing costs. Blah, blah, blah. With all that said, guys, hope that was enjoyable. Thanks for watching, and we will see you guys in the next video.